Hi guys, my name is Kaidin and my group partners are Mathew and John, and we decided to do our presentation on SYN flood attacks. So what is a SYN flood attack? Well, a SYN flood attack is a common form of DDoS attack that can target any system connected to the internet using TCP services, such as a web server, email server, and similar servers like that. The purpose of a SYN flood attack is that it's basically aiming to take a server offline by flooding a server with illegitimate traffic and consuming all of the server's resources. Because the server's resources are taken by the flood of illegitimate traffic, it will either take the server offline or make it so that there's no available resources for legitimate traffic to go through. This works by repeatedly sending initial connection request packets as to overwhelm the available ports on the server. And this is what makes it so the server either gets taken offline because it's overloaded, or it just takes an extremely long time for the server to end up replying to legitimate traffic.
Alright, so now we'll go over the screenshots we took while we demoed our machines. To make this attack successful, we first need to install hping3 to our Kali machine to initiate the SYN flood attack. Next, the command we use to start the hping attack is listed as in the screenshot. The command is sending 15,000 packets at 120 bytes each on port 80. The flood flag will send the packets as soon as possible, and the RAN source flag will spoof the IPs to disguise the real source. This will do as expected and flood the victim's IP to overwhelm the target resources. The target will be so overwhelmed that it can't process legitimate requests and leading to a DOS. So this is the environment before the attack took place. You can ping 8.8.8.8 and receive packet requests no problem. Also, you can easily connect to Firefox. Now this is the screenshot after the attack. You can no longer connect to Firefox, and the packet requests to 8.8.8.8 are not received and lost. This is our Wireshark capture. So we can first filter for SYN packets to see if there was a possible flood attack. When you look at this capture, you can see a bunch of SYN packets going to our target IP address, and you can also see that the source addresses are all different. So talking back to our command we talked about a few slides ago, you can see that it worked properly because the source addresses are all different. They all have a destination to port 80. They all have packets with the identical length of 120 bytes. So next we'll look at the log analyzer tool. Once we perform the attack, we check the log analyzer to see if we can get any information that could tell us the attack is happening. So we can see from the screenshot that the log analyzer noticed a possible SYN flood attack on port 80 and tried to send cookies to defend against it. The reason why they send SYN cookies is to allow connections to continue establishing at times when a socket faces a temporary SYN flood. Next, we'll look at the ntop-ng tool that we used. After performing the attack, we check our ntop tool and see if the SYN flood attack works. You can see from the screenshot that the amount of active flows grows immediately. You can also see the warnings from the screenshots saying there are too many hosts leading to a packet drop and high CPU load. This is exactly what the attacker wants and to deny legitimate requests on the server. So this is the ntop continued. So in the top screenshot, we can see that the alert that ntop is trying to give the administrator that there is an error on the network and packets are starting to drop. The bottom screenshot can show us the flow alerts the tools have captured for us. It shows that multiple IPs are trying to connect to multiple ports on our network. So we can see at the bottom there a total of 1,733 rows of information were captured for this one attack. And you can also see from that screenshot that the IPs that are coming in are all from different IP addresses, which can confirm that the command we used at the beginning is working perfectly fine.
Mitigation for ongoing attacks. The default backlog size in most servers are only a few hundred connections, so increasing the SYN backlog size can add buffer to prevent exhaustion. However, this is at cost of memory, so it may not be viable for all systems. By recycling the oldest half-open connection in the backlog, the system will be able to process requests that complete the TCP handshake. However, it's not very effective in the event of a high volume attack. Usage of SYN cookies allow connections to be stored instead of remaining active in the transmission control block. This way only the request completing handshake will be given a state in the TCP. Now for prevention. Use of IDS with anomaly detection and threshold alerts can be used to assure fast and accurate detection. Firewall rules to drop connections from unusual IP addresses and filtering packets with spoofed IP addresses can be used, but it's not as effective if the incoming traffic is from botnets. Cloud-based services are the most effective against DOS attacks. Modern threats of large volume attacks, botnets, hybrid attacks, or zero-day exploits cannot be mitigated by on-premise implementations. Cloud services are able to distribute the attacks and fingerprint the incoming packets with OS information and patterns to filter them much more effectively. There are thousands of destructive DDoS attacks, with the number only increasing every year. And these are some of the notable attacks of all time. Attack on Internet Service Provider Panics is one of the earliest denial of service attacks reported. In 1996, when they blocked spammers from abusing their customers, which was new at the time, they were hit with SYN flood attack, which peaked around 150 packets per second in retaliation. The attack lasted several days until Cisco was able to mitigate it. In 2020, AWS reported an attack lasting over 3 days. It is the largest attack by volume reported. In 2018, GitHub was hit with DDoS, which managed to last 20 minutes before being mitigated. This could have potentially impacted thousands of projects hosted there. 2016 DIN attack, one of the more interesting attacks, it used a Mirai botnet. The Mirai malware used SYN flooding as one of its vectors and was widespread large enough with millions of valid IP addresses to bring down multiple services. Attack mitigated by Cloudflare in 2014 of 400 gigabits per second volume was the biggest at that time. Now on to why are they dangerous. Spoofed IP addresses in packets and attacks from botnets make it hard to block and defend against. Organizations have to opt for complex cloud-based protection, which is not viable for smaller establishments. SYN floods are smaller in volume but more effective when the packets are interpreted as new connection requests and the server is left half open, which limits the number of real connections. In all the Kaspersky reports, SYN flood has retained the dominant share of DDoS attacks, and AWS reports it at second position, showing how popular it is. Thank you.